This is the Alden Report.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Wicked Happy. The way you live your life depends on your outlook, and theirs is simple. Be wicked happy. Wicked Happy provides you with apparel to make you smile. So if you want to be wicked happy and you want to look wicked cool, then visit wickedhappy.com, and at checkout, enter in the code RADIO for an additional 15% off your entire order. Again, visit wickedhappy.com, apparel to make you smile.
This is the Alden Report.
All right. Well, my name is Mike Alden. We are here in Blue Vase Studios. I'm rocking the hat and the Wicked Happy sweatshirt. It's cold, wicked cold, as we would say here. We're about to get a massive storm, but I'm super excited for my next guest. Her name is Caroline Goyder. She's an author. She's a voice coach. She works with entrepreneurs and helping them kind of get over their own little internal issues, which, by the way, I just was telling her before, I have them all the time, and I've been plagued with anxiety, social anxiety. When I get up on stage and I speak and I get nervous and all these other things, she is the person that you talk to overcome that stuff. In fact, she's also a TEDx speaker with over 9 million views, and she talks about all this stuff. So I'm super excited. And listen, if you're one of those people that gets probably too nervous and your body takes over, she can kind of show you some tricks and techniques that'll help you get over that stuff and become one of the greatest speakers or whatever you want to do in life and business. Please help me welcome Caroline Goyder. Caroline, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure, Mike. Great to be here.
So I just want to get right into it. So when I saw your profile, first of all, congratulations on your books. I'm also an author as well, and you're with the big time publishers, which is not an easy thing to do. And I know I've seen the success of it and your TEDx. I mean, you've done so many amazing things. But one of the things that really kind of struck a chord with me, and I was telling you this before we went live, is you work with people that have anxiety. There's no other way to describe it. You talk a lot about introverts and extroverts and things like that. So I want to just jump right into that. Like, how did you discover or start to work with people that are dealing with these types of things? I think we all have.
You've nailed it. That's it. So I have this thing, Mike, which is about this word or this phrase, public speaking. Okay. So let's just apply that to golf, public golf, or dancing, public dancing, or chess, public chess. I mean, those things do exist, but you don't call it public golf. You just call it golf.
Oh my God. I'm already having anxiety just thinking about now getting up to the tee with my friends, like freaking out. I'm not a real big golfer, but worrying about that I might miss the ball and what they'll think, right? Because we all deal with that stuff. Right?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
exactly.
You're giving me anxiety here already.
So this is it. So
what the hell?
Language makes it worse, right? So it's just speaking, okay? And you and I are having a great chat now, and we're relaxed and conversational. So why can't that Mike stand on a stage in front of, 4,000x people?
Right.
That's my kind of mission as a coach, is to help people see that speaking is only ever speaking. And if you understand how to get your brain under control, and particularly understand how to get your body under control, because speaking is breath, right? Then standing in front of 4,000 people, it can feel like a conversation with friends. It really can. That's why I do what I do, because I think everybody should know that. I don't understand why they don't know that.
It sounds so easy, right? But I also, I talked about this before. I talked about my books. I've actually suffered with, panic attacks here and there, but I'm also a lawyer by trade. And I remember being in law school in a class of 150 students, and I spontaneously, instantly, and the professor didn't even call on me, but I was so freaked out about the fact that I might get called on. My whole body, I just started to profusely sweat. Like, it looked like I had just got out of the shower. And I'll never forget it. And it happened a couple times. And I'm looking around the room, and you talk about it on your website, it's like, oh my God, now everybody's looking at me. Is the professor looking at me? What? But you talk about some of the things that you can do to kind of overcome that. I remember that. And I remember also feeling trapped. I actually couldn't get up, like, because I was in the middle. I was in the middle row. I was in the middle seat. There was just no possibility. But I was just like pouring, and I just sat there. And then I was like, I remember like praying to God that I didn't get called on, because then it would. I don't know what would have happened. I would have had a heart attack.
It's a horrible feeling, isn't it? And a lot of people I work with, people in big jobs who do big responsible things, feel the same. And I think it's connected to this public speaking thing, right? And usually they'll say to me, like you have, that somewhere in their studies at school or at college, something like that has happened. And it's that ancient fear of everybody staring at us. And it's like the tribe are staring at you and they don't like what you're saying and they're going to reject you. And for your brain, that's about survival, right?
Right.
And so part of what I do is kind of helping people update their brains and bodies to say, actually, you're safe. Nobody's going to, none of them are going to hurt you. I mean, law school's a pretty brutal experience, but they weren't actually going to hurt you. But your brain didn't know that. So it's kind of like updating the files in a way, and updating the breath and the body and the way you visualize it. And then you just have to practice and take small steps. You know, I have a client I've been working with recently. I won't name what he does because it'll kind of make it easier to pinpoint him, but he works in a profession where he speaks all day, very high stakes situations. And he comes to me because he has to make a big speech in front of all the top people in his profession in an informal situation at a party. And he's absolutely bricking it, as we would say. I don't know if that's an expression that you use, but that's a very UK expression. He was terrified. And over 3 months, I got him from, I can't do this, everybody's going to laugh at me, I'm panicking, this is awful, I might be. And I got some really good feedback. And that was all on Zoom. It was him practicing, visualizing how it looked when it worked, practicing speaking slowly, centering his breath, practicing grounding himself. Super simple stuff. And he went from abject panic to I've done it and I nailed it in 3 months. And you can do it. You really can.
See, I think that's too, when I was, going over the stuff you've done and looking at your books and your website. Again, we're on with Caroline Goyder. She is a TEDx speaker with over 9 million views. She's a best-selling author. Her books are sold all over the world. She works with entrepreneurs like myself. She also, you heard her kind of talk about, she works with people that she can't even really talk about because they're super high profile. If you want some more information about Caroline, you go to Caroline Goyder. It's Goyder, right? Goyder.com, CarolineGoyder.com. Just Google her. Her TEDx speech is out there. She's all over Instagram, Twitter, etc. So, when I hear what you just said, I think of, I had Dan Coyle on. He's a New York Times bestselling author. He wrote the book called The
Amazing
Talent
books.
Code. You know who he is, right?
Yeah,
And he talked about this thing called deep practice for athletes, right?
Yes.
And when I was reading, some of the tips that you give right on your website that people can just go to and just learn, it's what you just talked about. It's practice. Like I remember, when I was speaking more. In fact, the last one I did was a couple of years ago, and it was 2 hours, and I knew it was 2 hours. 2 hours of just me. And I prepared that speech over and over and over again in the mirror. And in fact, the morning before, the morning of, I remember being in my hotel room with my wife in the other room, and I did the entire speech in a mirror to myself.
Great.
And then when I got on stage, I was fine. Is that it? I mean, is that the simple answer? Is practice?
It's kind of the simple and the hard answer, isn't it? Because practice, Aristotle calls this right actions, and he has this phrase that we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act but a habit. And it's like anything. It's like getting fit when it's cold and dark outside. It's like practicing a speech when you really don't want to do it. With that TEDx, I was working with a brilliant coach in the US, and she said, this is a massive risk because you're a speaking coach. She basically said, don't F this up.
Right.
And so I didn't want to rehearse. But when TEDx said, we'd like you to do the speech, I sat down. I was in Oxford that day, and I sat down on one of those Harry Potter style steps of the buildings. And I looked at my diary and I just blocked out. It was 3 months away. And I just blocked out a day a month. And I contacted people who could help me because I knew I really didn't want to work on it, but I knew if I blocked out that time, I would. And I also know from theatre, just as you're saying, just as Dan is saying, it's that feeling of if you have done enough practice, you will get there. You'll get
It's
there.
funny too, when I was watching your speech and when again, having been on your website and learning a little bit about what we just talked about, the practice. I write about practice in my first book, Ask More, Get More, and I get it. In fact, I just posted about this today. You probably inspired me to do that. About a lot of times, like you said, we just procrastinate because we're afraid to do it. We don't do it. But so I was watching your speech, and this is an interesting thing. And there's a great, and I talk about this in one of my books with Michael Phelps as well, and so many other just high profile people. So you're at this TEDx speech. I'm guessing it was outside. Was it outside?
It was in this weird school hall with terrible air conditioning.
Okay, all right. So your hair was actually blowing, and right, and so you probably didn't prepare for that, right? But because you were prepared, it didn't really phase you. And in fact, I know that the TEDx speeches, they're usually 18 minutes and they're very rigid, and there's not a lot of room to play. But you kind of, recognized it, pivoted, and even referenced it in the speech. But because you were prepared, it just made it easier, right? To basically deal with some of those things, because we can prepare all we want, but then shit's just going to happen.
Life happens. And I'd been working with, so I am no stand-up comedian, it's worth saying, probably evident from the beginning. I laugh every 10 seconds or something, isn't it? And I was working with a stand-up comedy coach because they are so brilliant at helping you shape content. And he had said to me, you've got to have something to do if they don't laugh. You've got to have something to do if they do laugh. You've got to have something to do if nobody responds to that line. So we'd worked it like I was doing a stand-up routine,
Right.
Which is insane. And so what that meant was, as you say, when that strange aircon thing happened, Chris had kind of prepped me to be ready to come up with a line. So to anybody, even if you're not funny, I'm not funny, but stand-up comedy training is a brilliant thing to do for speaking, because it teaches you how to, like jazz, riff, handle what happens. And that's such a useful training.
It's so funny you say that, because I did that. I actually, I was a stand-up comedian for 3 years.
Oh my gosh,
I performed
wow.
at the LA Improv. I performed all over the United States. I mean, the iconic LA Improv stage. I got so crazy into it. Yeah, it was nuts. But you're right. I remember, I don't think I've told this publicly. So I did this. It was one of the first times I was really getting into a groove, right? And so a lot of times in these open mic nights, they're just other comedians there just waiting to get stage time. And I was at a dance with my daughter, and it was a Girl Scout dance. And all these little girls, they're like 6, 7, 8. And the song Super Freak came on. And I'm sitting there with all these other moms, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, you guys know the lyrics to this song, right? She's a very kinky girl, the kind of girl you don't want to bring home to mother. So I think it's funny, right? I think this is a funny thing. I've been working my comedy chops. I get up on stage, and I decide I didn't prepare this, right? I decide I'm going to do a whole thing about that song. So I do this whole comedy routine, and it's eerily silent. I could actually feel like laser beams coming at me, and I have no idea why, but I get through the whole thing. I don't think I got any laughs, which, by the way, that's a part of the training. I think that you just you just figure it out. So this whole thing, and now in a comedy setting with open mic nights or any of them, they usually have an MC, right? Well, the MC had a drink named after him called Super Freak. He had 45 minutes that he would do about that song, and I had no idea. And so he comes up on stage and he goes, that was pretty good, kid. Let me show you how it's really done. He had a drink at the bar called Super Freak named after him. It was so embarrassing. But because I had been prepared to, and I had really just, bombed, like like you had mentioned before, it didn't throw me too much. But yeah, I think you're right. That's the biggest reason why I did the stand-up comedy. Well, a couple of reasons why, but to be able to make people laugh who don't know you, I think is a skill set that can be taught, but it's also something that needs to be worked. And I think you're right. And you hear about, every speech, like, hey, you want to open with a joke, maybe even close with a joke, and get a couple in between. Now let's talk about real life, right? I think even on your website, you talk, you walk into a social setting. I deal with this all the time. Like I was talking to my therapist about this. By the way, for those listening right now, and for you probably, like, I usually don't talk this much on the podcast. I'm on prednisone right now because I'm dealing with some COVID stuff. I think it's making me talk like a lunatic. But anyway, so you go into a social setting, and it happens to me a lot. And I feel like, maybe because I'm a narcissist, I feel like everybody's staring at me. Then I get hot. Then I get nervous. And we used to deal with that by drinking. I don't really drink anymore. So is that something that's common too? Is that something we all deal with? Because I feel like it's just me. Like I walk in a room, like everybody's staring at me, but they're not. I just feel like they are. Does everybody deal with that?
I think it's got worse in the last couple of years. I think even so, I'm an introvert, and parties can feel a bit overwhelming, but I think a lot of people are feeling social anxiety now because we're out of practice, right? We've got used to our little caves.
Right.
And somebody told me a really good tip, which is this is a George Clooney tip, and you can imagine his kind of twinkly face. He says when he walks into a party, he imagines everybody he meets as an old friend. And I had to go to a networking event where we stayed for the weekend in this place in Wales with lots of slightly daunting people that I'd never met before. And I just thought, I'm just going to employ that principle, that everybody I meet, I'm going to smile at them like they're an old friend. And the thing that happens when you do that is most people smile back. And the ones that don't, you don't really want to talk to anyway. So it's the act as if, isn't it? But whether that takes the anxiety away, I say to myself, you only have to stay for 10 minutes. You go, it's like the gym, you only have to stay for 10 minutes. And if you're still enjoying it, then stay a bit longer. And that, the combination of the George Clooney tip and stay for 10 minutes will get me to a party. And then I normally have a good time. So I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I've been on TV for the past, 12 years. I don't look like this when I'm on TV, but when I would go on set, like you literally have the lights and you got makeup and there's crew and everybody's there and like you're the guy and you got to perform, right? And I would get so nervous. But the one thing that I did learn. Well, one thing in comedy that I learned was when I was talking, I was doing stand-up comedy almost every night for 3 years straight.
Wow.
Everyone thought I was having a nervous breakdown. I had friends say, Mike, what's the end game? Like, what are you doing? But in stand-up comedy, I learned when some of these professionals, they said, well, one of the things you need to do, if you watch any stand-up comedians, one of the things that they do is they grab the microphone stand and they put it behind them. That's like a thing that they just all do. And it's a part of owning the stage.
I like it.
Right. And so they would say to me, they say, just own the stage. Once you go in with that mentality. So when I would go on set, the same thing, that's kind of what George Clooney was saying, which I think is really important. The act as if, right? When it's time to be on, I think you can just turn on. You're literally acting, but you're still you. Is that it too? Like it's a kind of like a hyper version of yourself, right?
I think so. It's funny, I interviewed A-list actors for my first book. I wrote a book in 2008 called Star Qualities, and I went and talked to a load of A-list actors, and they all talk about this, that they all feel nervous and they all have to switch on something. And I think we kind of know that about actors, but what surprised me was that in their own lives, they found it just as hard. And people like Cate Blanchett talk about turning the lights on. And I think that's a really good rule for introverts, which is that you can kind of switch the energy on and then you have to turn it off again, but you can switch it on. It's like you're saying, it's a kind of dialed up version of you.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting too, when you say, that you're an introvert and, you've been on some really big stages and you continue to do that and you coach other people as well. And I think I was telling you earlier, I was talking to my therapist about this, which I'm not afraid to talk about that. And I said, you know what, man? I said, I think I'm an introvert. And he's like, really? And I go, but I'm also an extrovert in certain scenarios. And I'm like, so what is that? He's like, let me Google it. I think it's called an androvert. And so we all have one of the other, right, or somewhere in between. But when you talk about too where we are in the world today, like, is it practice? Is it mindset? Is it a combination of that? So the average everyday person, maybe the people who are listening right now, maybe they're not in business, maybe they're not professional speakers. I have a lot of just like soccer moms that just listen to this, and they're feeling this. When people deal with anxiety, right? It's the same thing. We all physically feel stuff. It manifests its way differently, but we all have it, whether it's near. So what are they supposed to do? The average everyday person to overcome their own social anxieties.
Because I'm the soccer mum, you see. I mean, I would say that I find the school gate stuff harder in some ways, right? Because when you're working professionally, often there's a kind of, you walk in and there is a kind of professional mask, right? I'm here as the speaker coach. Whereas when you're at the school gates, there's no mask. You're just mum.
Right.
And so I think actually that's much harder. And what I would say, what do I do on days where I'm feeling anxious? Well, on days where I'm feeling anxious, it's very, very simple. Get out of your head. That's what I say to myself. Because when I'm in anxiety, the thoughts are swirling and I'm saying, you're a terrible mother, you're late, look how scruffy you are, they're all much smarter than you. That stuff will happen. And if I just go, the air is on your face, your feet are on the floor, the clothes are on your skin, you're breathing in, you're breathing out, then you just come back to the facts. And the anxiety is a story you're telling yourself because your body thinks it's going to help you survive. It's not the truth. And the simple thing of feet on floor, air on face is a lifesaver, because some situations just are anxiety making and there's nothing we can do about it, right?
Yeah, it is just a part of life. In a second, I want to talk to you about your Gravitas Method. Talk to you a little bit about that book as well. And it's such a great word just in general, right? I want to talk to you about that, what the Gravitas Method is and how people can benefit from it. Again, we're on with Caroline Goyder all the way across the pond, as they would say. She's over in the UK, and the benefits of Zoom. She is a best-selling author. Her books are sold all over the world. She is a motivational speaker. She's a TEDx speaker with over 9 million views, which is just absolutely remarkable. She works with people from all walks of life to overcome kind of the things that we're just talking about. For me, I was excited because I deal with this stuff all the time. I talk about it. Not everybody likes to talk about it, but I feel as though that as humans, we all go through it. And I think it's important for all of us to talk about it. So if you'd like some more information about Caroline, you want to work with her, you just go to carolinegoyder.com. It's CarolineGoyder.com. You can just Google her as well. She's everywhere. She's got a great YouTube page. She's on Twitter. She's on Instagram. She's everywhere doing her thing. And, here's the thing, helping people as well. Her books, again, like I said, sold all over the world. She's written multiple books with the big time publishers. I'm kind of jealous of that. She's doing big things, but she works with average everyday people as well to help you kind of get better in whatever it is you're looking to get better at in life. So check her out. Even if you're in the United States, you can still work with her because the benefits of technology.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Wicked Happy. The way you live your life depends on your outlook, and theirs is simple. Be wicked happy. Wicked Happy provides you with apparel to make you smile. So if you want to be wicked happy and you want to look wicked cool, then visit wickedhappy.com, and at checkout, enter in the code RADIO for an additional 15% off your entire order. Again, visit wickedhappy.com, apparel to make you smile.
So you have this method called the Gravitas Method. First of all, what is Gravitas? Let's start there. And let's get into this method and how people can benefit from it.
So what is Gravitas is a question I asked myself at the beginning of this journey, because I was working with corporates.
I hope you should know. You wrote a book called...
I knew by the time I'd done the book that you'll be glad to know. But about, 10 years ago, I was being asked all the time, because I was a speaker coach, and corporates, big companies, UK, US, would say to me, we have these execs and everybody says they need more gravitas, but we don't know what to do with that. And I knew I could kind of teach them what to do, but I needed to research it. So I went back to the classics. I went back to ancient Greek, ancient Rome. I looked at Aristotle and Cicero and Ad Herennium and all the kind of rhetorical texts. And it turns out they didn't talk much about gravitas, but it was a Roman virtue, and it meant seriousness, dignity, weight, authority. But what I found out is that they were teaching people all the stuff that I was learning and teaching actors. So they taught people how to stand, they taught people how to pause, they taught people how to project their voices. They taught the orators on the same field as the athletes, which is like drama school. You move, you know. And so I went, oh, okay. All I have to do is work out what it is I'm teaching actors to own a room, just like you're saying, to own the stage, and then look at what the ancient orators were teaching people and then put that together and write a book. And that's what I did. And it's really simple. Yes, that's simple. Took ages.
So, but you actually have a training though that people can do in addition to the book. Tell me a little bit about that and how people could participate in that. What it is, how long is it, and how it can work for people.
So we've taken that Gravitas method and we've turned it into a course called Master Your Meetings, because over lockdown, I was getting asked a lot to apply this to sales teams, particularly, but any execs who needed more impact in meetings. So we took the method and we've turned it into a 4-module course that you could do in 2.5 hours, but you might want to take 4. And it talks you through all the practical tools. Like, you'll like this one. If you put your palms down, right, and anybody listening can try this.
Doing it.
If we just say the days of the week, okay, and we press our palms down, just notice what happens to your voice. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, okay? Notice where your voice is. Now just turn your palms up. It's really weird. Okay? Days of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Hi, I'm Caroline. Hi, I'm Caroline. If someone knows that when your palms go down, it lowers your tone, that you sound more authoritative, you can do it anywhere. And if someone knows that when you flip your palms up and smile, it lightens your tone, if you're the person who people say you're too serious, you can do that anywhere. And there are some really simple things that help people just flex their style and go from strength to warmth and back again. And really, Gravitas in a nutshell is balance. It's the balance between your weight, your heaviness, and your lightness, your playfulness. And someone like, well, who do you think has Gravitas?
Well, it's funny. I remember Howard Stern always plays a clip of Kevin Bacon. And said, "Hey, what's your favorite word?" It's gravitas. So I think a lot of actors do, right? I think a lot of I think here in New England, well, he's not here anymore. Like Tom Brady, for instance, right? I think he's pretty humble, but I think any professional athlete would have to have that. Any super high performing type person like that, I think has gravitas. Athletes, I think, would be a key, key profession for that.
And that fits the balance thing. They're grounded because they're in their bodies, and they also have lightness and humility. It also fits the gravitas equation that I created on the back of Aristotle. Knowledge plus passion plus purpose minus anxiety. He has knowledge, he has passion, he has purpose, and he shows up without anxiety. That, for me, is how you define it.
You also talk specifically about one's voice. In fact, in your TEDx speech, the first thing you do when there's a little secret there, but one of the things you do is you do hold a guitar and you talk about, our actual own voices and things like. I had Roger Love on. I'm guessing you probably know who he is.
Oh, he's great. Yeah.
And he specifically, it's voice coach. That's what he is. Is that also what you do as well? And if it is, talk a little bit about the importance of things like voice inflection and using your voice, and like you did in your TEDx speech, talking about our instrument. We all have it if we can speak. Not everybody can, but if we can, it's such a powerful instrument that can be used to our advantage if we know how to use it properly.
Yeah, I mean, I am at heart a voice coach, and it's just it's grown into other things as well. But The thing I love about the voice is you say it's an instrument, and it works.
Hold on, you say I think you say it's an instrument.
Yes, definitely an instrument. And it's the string.
You're the authority here, not me, just so clear.
Right. We're all the authorities, you know. And the string here is what, when the air leaves your body, vibrates and produces sound. So breath is central. And what's amazing about speaking is when you understand that all speech is out breath, this is a kind of magic to me. If you look after the in-breath, your voice will do its own thing. So if I'm gasping for air because I'm stressed and I've had a bad day and I'm sitting at my laptop all day and now I've got to make a speech, then I'm breathing in like I'm panicking. And guess what? That's what my body's going to do. Whereas if I've taken a little bit of time to get physically grounded and I take a low, wide belly breath, like I'm hanging out with my mates, guess what? My body shows up like it's hanging out with my mates. And it's just, we have this moment by moment control of our nervous system when we speak. So you say that speaking makes you feel stressed and anxious. I would flip that and say, when you know how, you can calm yourself down on every full stop. Because you take a lovely relaxed in-breath. But nobody teaches us this. And I don't understand why. Because it's magic, right? It's magic.
It makes sense too. I remember listening to an interview with Jennifer Aniston, and she was talking about, I think when she was accepting, what do they have for TV? I think it's the Grammys. Grammys. What's the TV version? Yeah, I think it's Grammys. Grammys. Yeah, whatever. She was accepting some award in
Emmys.
Emmys. Yeah, Emmys. Yes, Emmys. Yeah, Grammys is music. Yeah, so Emmys. And people see these actors and actresses and they think that they wouldn't be nervous, but she was saying that she was deathly nervous and afraid. And I've heard other actors, because we're all human, but she talked a little bit about how she prepared for that. And once you, like you said, once you kind of work at it, I guess what the question I have for you is that for the average everyday person who, let's say, I remember when I was practicing law, and I loved being in court, loved it, loved getting yelled at by judges, loved having to think on my feet. I think it's such a great profession if you do want to speak, because you can be as prepared as you want, but you're just going to get shit thrown at you left and right. And you have to be able to think on your feet. But I remember I actually broke my nose multiple times, and I can't breathe out of my, still to this day, for can't breathe out of my nose. And I remember being nervous speaking, and the only thing I could, because I'm talking, and the only way I could bring air in is I'd have to stop, and I have to go like this, and it used to make me then feel like, oh my God, they're staring at me and they think I'm extra nervous. So I guess what the question is that, so someone like me, and I have worked with people like you over the years, is it something that you have to work at every day, even though you're not necessarily speaking like art? Because I meditate every day, right? So like I know that I meditate every day and I'm consistent, my mental health is going to be fairly decent. If I don't, it's not. Is it the same thing for kind of professional speakers or people who are in the executive role where they have to speak a lot? Do they have to put that work in outside of their actual job?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I know that if I put in 5, 10, 15 minutes, an hour a day, then it's like the engine just flows. And if you stop, it's much harder. For execs whose diaries are a bit insane, they'll always look at me like, are you going to make me do an hour's warm up? And I say, look, if you just find 5 minutes at the beginning of your day, put some music on and sing. As you say, spend a few minutes meditating. Just in the moments that you have between meetings, come back and think feet on floor, air on face, notice how you're breathing. It's like, it doesn't have to be a half-hour warm-up. It can be little sprints of 5 minutes between meetings. But the most important thing is that you set yourself up for calm in the morning. Spend 5 minutes, hand on belly, just feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath flow out. You can do that on public transport. Spend 2 minutes while you're making a coffee, humming or singing. Spend 5 minutes, walking somewhere so the body's warm. Those little wins are transformative for the voice over time, because the voice just responds to being relaxed and being aligned.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it kind of circles back to what we said in the very beginning. It's practicing, right? It's putting in that work. And, again, I just posted about this on my Instagram that I'm sure you probably do the same thing too. I mean, this is what you teach, but sometimes we just don't do it. But we have to remind ourselves that in order to be successful, in order to not feel as anxious, you just got to put in the work, right? I mean, again, it kind of goes full circle. I mean, but you also have to know what it is, right? And you also, the other thing too, what I love about doing this podcast, and for me, it's, somewhat selfish because I get to learn this stuff from you, and you charge people, you charge money for this. So, I said that to Malcolm, not Malcolm Gladwell, Malcolm, who wrote, if you can't, what got you here won't get you there. Malcolm Goldsmith, I think. Yeah, Goldsmith.
Yes.
I said he charges like $200 or something crazy like that for like an hour. And I said, man, I said, man, this is great. I'm getting you for free. He didn't think it was funny, but I did. So yeah, right. So people, again, they go to your website, carolinegoyder.com. You have a bunch of different options for them. So if people are listening right now, they like the sound of your voice, they like the way you look if they're watching on YouTube, and they're looking for something to give them an edge. They go to your website. In addition to picking up your books, where would they start? Would it be the Gravitas Method, or I know you have a couple other things? Should they just watch some of your YouTube videos? Where should someone start to kind of get really kind of into your ecosystem? Because we haven't really talked about it, but you do work with some of the biggest people in the world as well. And I know some of them, again, you can't even publicly talk about, but I know that you do. So average everyday person goes to carolinegoyder.com. Where do they start? Like where's the place where they should, okay, this is where I should, begin?
So the real entry point is YouTube, or sign up for my newsletter. So every week I take a question from the audience. What happens if I blush in front of an audience? How long do I pause? What do I do if I feel social anxiety? These have all been questions in the last month, and I unpack and give you an answer each week. So signing up to the newsletter is actually a really great way to get loads of free coaching, because I share the stuff I share with clients. YouTube is another thing. Sign up to YouTube and there's a video every week, or Instagram. At the lowest level, there's an audio course that you can learn the Gravitas Method. Then there's Master Your Meetings, which is a slightly bigger course. And then you start to get into the turf of booking me for training, or booking me to speak, or booking me as a coach. But as you say, that then starts to ramp up in terms of cost. There's loads of good free stuff on the site.
So before I let you go, I'm thinking about your newsletter, and I think about my me being selfish. I want to ask you this question, and this is, I know you talked about yourself with the blushing and things like that. Okay, so I'm on stage, or I'm in court, I'm in a meeting, whether it's Zoom or in person. I start to visibly sweat. I'm using this as a hypothetical, right? So that happens. What does someone do? Couple things, because a couple things go through my mind. So like I have a hat on right now. So let's say I don't have the hat. I got to get a haircut tomorrow. But so let's say I'm sweating. I'm visibly sweating on my forehead. I can feel it. Maybe I can even feel it coming down my back. What do I do? How do I wipe the sweat off my forehead, because then I feel like they're going to stare at it even more? Do I act like it's not there? Like, what are some of the things that you would recommend people do in that scenario? Because that's maybe like that's a question from the audience. I don't know if you already answered it. I don't know if it's already been in your newsletter. Maybe you put it in the next newsletter. But I got you. So
good question.
Yeah.
So I think always, if you can, bring it in. It's like stand-up comedy, isn't it? Whatever's happening, bring it in. When we're really sweating or really blushing, I think sometimes naming it makes it worse. So the first thing I would say to someone is just acknowledge it and be okay with it yourself. The worst thing you can do is start beating yourself up. You're an idiot. You're blushing. Look, they're all staring at you, Muppet.
Okay, all right. So let me stop you there for a second, because I was hoping you were going to go there. So, it's like I remember being in high school. You get like a zit or something. Like I would acknowledge it. Like, oh, there it is. Is that one of the things? Because it just takes the elephant out of the room. Like, hey, yeah, I'm sweating. Whatever. Wipe it off your forehead and just move on. Is that it?
I think it is it. I'm all about naming elephants in rooms. And I think first you have to make peace with it yourself. Does that make
'Cause I think I
sense?
don't want to cut you off. I mean, in fact, in your one of the things you talk about, how not to get cut off. But like, I think about your speech, your TEDx speech with the wind blowing into the microphone. Like that had to have kind of thrown you off a little bit. You would not, and that's exactly what you did. You just acknowledged it, and people laughed.
But yeah, calm yourself down. A laugh says your nervous system is all right.
Yeah.
So just say to yourself, it's okay, and then name it. And then it's okay for you and it's okay for them. And then everybody relaxes. The worst thing is watching someone really blushing or really sweating and trying to hide it. And you as an audience are so worried about them trying to hide it that it's just everybody's uncomfortable. But as soon as you name it, everybody relaxes and the whole room exhales. And that's, well, it's funny apart from anything else. You know that it's where all comedy exists.
So, you know, what I think too, I know I said I was going to let you go and keep it a little bit longer, but I think when you talked in your TEDx speech, you talked about how you spoken on much bigger stages. What's easier? I'll tell you what. Hold on. I have an opinion on what's easier. Is it easier to speak in front of 10,000 people or 10 people? What do you think?
The hardest audience is 10 of your respected peers.
Yep, that's it. All right, good. All right, I'm good. That's the answer because that would be the one that makes me the most nervous. I'd rather speak in front of 10,000 strangers.
10 voice, professors. Would
Right.
be terrifying.
All right. Okay. All right. That's all right. So that's all right. So in that scenario, what do you do? Now, okay, I think I have the answer, but I want you to tell me what the answer is. So you're at a intimate setting amongst your peers, all professionals, all probably kind of doing the same thing, playing at the same level, but it's your turn to hold the mic, so to speak. What do you do? What do you do?
The first thing I would say is prepare like crazy. So you've got something really good to offer. Then personally, I want to find out what they want. So my introvert strategy is always to ask people, what do you want from this session? That does two things. It gets the attention off you for a moment, and it also gives you a sense of what success is for them. Then I take the content I prepared and I weave it like a tapestry, bringing in the things they've asked for, because they feel so honored that you're giving them what they've asked for, that they kind of forgive anything that's, maybe a little bit not quite right or a little bit messy, because you're making something live in the moment for them. So it's kind of always just embrace the room, always bring people in, always find out what they want, always talk to them. And the more scared you are, the more you talk to them, because that helps. It always helps.
All right. I love it. I'm super excited we're able to make this happen all the way across the pond, so to speak. I think it's now 8:00. I think your time, and it's like, I don't know, almost 3:00 my time. So I want to thank you for being here again. We've been on with Caroline Goyder. She is an internationally recognized speaker. She's an internationally recognized best-selling author. She's got a TEDx speech out there with over 9 million views, and she works with some of the some of the biggest celebrities in the world, some of the top level executives in the world, but she also works with everybody, the average everyday executive or person. Soccer mom, she said she's a soccer mom as well. That if you're looking to get better in life, not necessarily even in business, but in life, if you want to kind of overcome some of the things that we talked about earlier, that I have, she even has, she's talked about it, she talks about it in her books, and everybody has. The only way you can really overcome it, I believe, that the best experiences are the experiences of others. She's a professional. She does it for some of the biggest people in the world, and she works with people all over the world. So if you'd like some more information about Caroline, if you want to pick up her books as well, just go to carolinegoyder.com. There's links there that bring you right to Amazon here in the United States and also outside the United States. She's on Instagram. She's on YouTube. Sign up for a newsletter. You heard her talk about it. It's free. It's not going to cost you anything. And you can, learn a little bit more about some of the things that she's doing and that she continues to do. This is why I love doing the Alden Report, to have people like Caroline that are helping people from all walks of life with a lot of different challenges. And for me, anxiety has really been one that's a challenge that I've talked about and I work through every single day. And I know that everyone does as well. So thank you for being here, Caroline. I really, really appreciate you. My name is Mike Alden. That's Caroline Goyder, and we'll see you soon.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Wicked Happy. The way you live your life depends on your outlook, and theirs is simple. Be wicked happy. Wicked Happy provides you with apparel to make you smile. So if you want to be wicked happy and you want to look wicked cool, then visit wickedhappy.com, and at checkout, enter in the code RADIO for an additional 15% off your entire order. Again, visit wickedhappy.com, apparel to make you smile.